All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. We're excited to walk you through our trading platform. We'll showcase its features and answer any questions you may have about maximizing your trading experience with Ironbeam. You can ask questions in the Q&A section as we go. If they aren't related to the current topic, you can hold on to them and ask them at the end, where we'll just open it up for a general Q&A. So here's the example workspace you'll see when you first log in. What we're going to do is we're going to start from scratch. So to create a new workspace, we're going to go to the main menu at the top left. We're going to click New, and you'll be given two options. One is a freeform workspace where you can freely drag the borders and resize widgets at will, kind of just like at a home computer. Or you can use auto arranged, where you can't overlay widgets on top of each other and they're sticky, so they'll snap together. We'll use the freeform workspace in this case. So we'll name our workspace demo. And we're starting from a blank workspace here. So what we're going to do is just go through every widget, all the features of them, how to use them, changing settings, all that good stuff. And feel free to ask any questions about each widget as we go through them. So the first one we're going to look at is account detail. So this is going to show you your account balance, your margin requirements for your current trades, your positions, your P&Ls, things like that. You can expand the details here if you'd like to see more values. So if we're in a trade here, it'll populate your margin requirements for initial maintenance, your margin excess. If you're in options trades, it'll show you your long option values, short option values, cash balance, and total equity. And there's a few things you can do to customize them here. So if you look, we have some columns here. So we have symbol, position slash quantity, entry slash last, P&L slash market, and action. Personally, I change these a little bit. I like to have some of these separate. So I will uncheck position slash quantity, entry slash last. I'll usually leave P&L slash market, but I'll actually enable these individually here. And we can either save them or save them in make default, so that if you open a new account detail widget or you create a new workspace, those changes will save. And so what I usually do, I do symbol, my position, the quantity of the position. I'll put my entry, price, last price, then I'll have my P&L and my action button here. And so what we'll do really quickly here is we'll put a position on so we can see how this looks when we're in a trade. So now that we're in a trade, we can see our margins are updating. We have our day P&L here. We're long one MES. Here's our entry price, our last price, and our P&L on the position. What you'll also see on open positions here is you have an action button. So we're long an MES here. So if we want to pull up a dome for it, you can simply click on depth. Or if you want to place an order to exit, you can pull up an order ticket for that symbol. And lastly, we can look at symbol information. So this will give you your margin values, expiration date, your tick size and tick values, basically the contract specs for that position. And this is one of the more simple widgets. So I'm going to take a look at the Q&A here and see if there's any questions, and if not, we can move on to the next widget here. And someone's asking if you can add more to an active contract if you're already in a trade, or take one contract off if you're in profit and still going. Yes, you can. I'm not sure if that's relating to the account detail widget here, but let's say we wanted to add a long position. We can just buy one more at the market and add to our position. Same thing for taking some off. So if we want to sell one now and leave one on, You can do that pretty easily from the account detail. Okay, so going on to the next widget, we're going to look at the quotes board. So this is where you can basically view, you can build a list of contracts or options or spreads, look at the daily change, open interest, volume, a bunch of different information. So we'll add a few symbols here. And so there's a good amount of customization in this widget. So similar to the account detail, you'll have a settings gear up here at the top right. And here is where you can customize all the different columns you want to see. So right now we have last price, the day change, your bid and ask, your high and low, volume and open interest, open, settle and settlement change, and market status. But there's a pretty good list of stuff in here that you can add or remove. And you can also customize the background of any column. So as you can see for bid and ask, we have them in green and red. But let's say we wanted to change the color. We would select that column in the settings here. And let's say we wanted to change it to blue. So you can customize the colors as well. And another thing that's built into the quotes widget, similar to the action button here in the account details, you can click on any symbol and you have a few extra options here. But similar to account detail, you have place order, you have depth, you have symbol information. On quotes, you can also just click on a chart and pull up a chart of the symbol. You can also edit symbols. So if you wanted to roll a contract forward, you can edit the expiration or you can type in a new symbol as well. And it looks like we have a few questions. Let me take a look here. So someone is asking if there are plans to incorporate market value of each position. So that actually is in here for options because that's easily calculable. For a futures contract, I'm assuming you're asking if we can display the notional value in there. That does sound like a cool feature. I don't know if that's on our roadmap, but if you want to shoot us an email afterwards, we could confirm or not. But at this current time, we don't have a market value or notional value field in the symbol information. Okay, there's a lot of questions in here, and I think most of these are for later on, but let me confirm here. So Cedric is asking if the account detail widget will show what day margin is active before entering a position. It does not. It will show you after entering a position. The best place to look for the most current day margins would be ironbeam.com/margins. That's always updated. So I would check there. And when you're in a trade on this platform, it does show you your day margin usage. Okay. Rest of the questions in there are for later on. So we'll keep plugging away here. So in the quotes widget, when you click to add a symbol, there's a symbol finder. So let's say we're looking for crude oil and we don't know the symbol. We can go to energies and you have a list of the most popular energy products here. And it looks like our first option here is CL, which is crude. And it'll give you a list of all available contracts to trade, starting at the closest to expiration. So you can click the plus button here and add it to your quotes board. And you can also pull up an option for that contract. So let's look at December. You can go to option chain. And what it's going to show you here is every available option series with where the expiration, the underlying futures contract is the December contract. So let's find an option series here. And at the top, you'll see filters. And what these do is as you check and uncheck them, it'll change the filter of what you're seeing below. So right now in this window, you're seeing all calls and puts that are near to the money. And what you can do is if you want to build an option chain, you can open a second tab here. And let's name it crude options. And we'll go back to where we were looking. And let's say we just wanted all near to the money puts. So this is showing all the closest to the money puts. You can select which ones you'd like to display, or you can either select a range. So if you click on this first option and this third option, it'll check all in between. Or you can select all in the window and click add. And that way you can add, a lot of symbols at once versus doing them piecemeal. Are there any questions relating to the quotes widget here before we move on? Let me take a look at the QA. Okay, doesn't look like it for quotes. We will keep plugging away here. So next we are going to take a look at charting. So like I said earlier, you can pull up a chart from the quotes widget directly on any symbol, or you can select charts from the widgets menu. And the first thing it's going to ask you is which symbol you want to look at. So we're going to put in the MES. And before we move on to charting, I'm sorry, someone is asking about future spreads, and that's a good question for quotes and charting. So let's say we want to look at a calendar spread for crude oil futures. The symbology is pretty simple. So you put the front month first, a dash, and then the second leg of the spread. So let's look at March 26. And so here's the crude oil calendar spread. You can do all the same things that you can do with a regular future symbol. So you can place an order as a spread on the spread symbol. You can look at the depth for the spread, and you can also chart it. Spread charts tend to look a little funny on shorter time frames just because the volume isn't nearly as high as the individual legs. But once you zoom out to 60-minute or dailies, things like that, they look a little bit more normal. And in addition to that, for spreads, you can also look at symbol info and easily pull the exchange margin for the actual spread and not for the individual legs. So in this case, your initial margin's 1460, where the front month, I'm sorry, that's the wrong symbol. Where the front month is 57.57. So our platform is unique where you get the automatic spread discount margins. You can also view them before you enter the trade. A lot of platforms either don't allocate you the spread margin, or they make it pretty difficult to see that margin before you enter into it. But it's pretty easy here on our platform. Okay, so CJ is asking how we pull up volume bars on the chart. We do plan to improve how maybe obvious it is to pull up a volume bar. So I'll show you really quickly here. So we're going to go to the chart settings menu here, this indicators button. And for volume bars, we don't treat them as indicators. We treat them as part of the actual symbol. So instead of going to indicators, we go to this settings gear here. We go to display. And in here, you'll see volume. And right now it's set for not for display. So it's not being displayed on the chart. So we're going to change that from not for display to new chart. And then most people look at volume as a histogram. So we're also going to change that. And here's where you can customize the colors for the indicator. So if we want green bars, you can choose that and we'll save it. And now you have your volume bars here on the chart. So I think the first thing we'll go over on the charting here is how to place an order. So we still have that position open from the start of the webinar here. So we're long one. The bar is showing our entry price, and we have a streaming P&L here displayed on the line. So if we want to close this position at the market, you can just simply click the X here, and it'll exit your trade. As for entering trades, you will want to, oh, looks like my trading, oh yeah, okay, sorry about that. So if you click on any price, whether it's above or below the current market price, it'll know whether you're looking to do a buy limit or a sell stop, or on the other side, if we click above the current price, it'll know that you're either looking to place a buy stop or a sell limit, because most people are not trying to place a buy limit above the current market price or a sell limit below the current market price. So to enter a trade on the chart, let's say we wanted to place an order at 67.60, we would just left click, and before you confirm your order, you can drag up and down to change the price. And then you can confirm which type of order you want to place. So we're going to place a buy limit, confirm, and now that's working. And after the order is working, you can modify the price before it's filled just by simply dragging the line up and down. And if you want to cancel it, you can just click the X here next to it. And it looks like we have a few questions in here, so I'm just reviewing them really quickly. Okay, so Mahesh is asking how we place bracket orders from the chart. So let's cover that. So the way charting handles bracket orders, there's a couple ways to do it. I think the best way is to create what we call an order strategy and save it. So what you can do is let's say your strategy is typically having a 3-point stop and a 2-point limit. So you can save an order type like that and apply it to every trade you place on the charts. So to create one, we'll go up here to strategies, create strategy. And from here, you have a list of different order types that you can create and save. So in this case, we're just talking about a bracket order. And you'll notice up here at the top right that there's a show formulas slider. If you're not doing something very custom, I recommend unchecking it, and it just makes it a lot easier on the eyes and a little bit more intuitive. So for a bracket order, the only thing you need to modify in this case is your take profit and stop loss offset. So let's say we want a 3-point take profit and a 5-point stop. That's all you really need to do here. We're going to save it, and then you can name it. So we'll just call this 3 limit, 5 stop. And so now that's saved. And to use that in the chart here, we'll go to select strategy. We have our strategy we just created here. And we know it's enabled because at the top of the chart here, it shows the name of our strategy with the green icon. And so let's place an order down here. Oh, you know what I'm going to do really quick? Another thing I recommend doing if you're day trading a lot and you're comfortable with the platform is enabling one-click trading. And this makes entering orders in, especially with saved strategies, a lot faster. So if I click buy limit, we have our limit order working. Our stop is down below here. And even though it's a safe strategy, you're not locked into your 3-point limit and 5-point stop. You can still modify all this stuff. So let's say we want to go ahead and get filled. Our order is executed. We're long one, and we have our sell stop and our sell limit. And if either of these gets filled, it'll cancel the other out. So let's just fill our sell limit. All orders are canceled and we're flat. It looks like we have a lot of questions about bracket orders. Are there any other specific questions on bracket orders I can cover here before we move on? To answer Mr. or Mrs. Lucy's question, yes. If you're working two bracket orders with multiple targets, multiple stops, it is first in, first out. So Brian is asking, he says that strategy was only for buying. Can you have strategies for both buy and sell, and how is that shown? So the nice thing about our strategies is you do not need two different strategies for buying and selling. So, and I'll show you how that works here. Let's edit this strategy. So you might remember how when we created this bracket order, the only thing we modified here was the take profit and stop loss offset. And the trigger order, you'll see it all says, default account, default side, default quantity, default symbol. What all those defaults mean is it's when you have that strategy enabled, whatever order you put in here, whether it's a 1-lot buy, a 3-lot sell, it doesn't matter. When that strategy is enabled, that order you first place is the default, and the bracket order operates off that. So if I place a sell limit with that same strategy, we still have a buy limit 3 points below and a buy stop 5 points above. So you don't need to worry about creating multiple strategies based off of buy and sell. And GJ is basically asking a very similar question. Will the strategy work on any ticker? Yes, it will. So we're going to go back to strategies. We're going to create a new one. So the only thing you want to be cognizant of if let's say you're creating a strategy and the default symbol is MES, when you're setting your take profit and stop loss offset, this is being formatted based off of the default symbol you have in here. So between NASDAQ and S&P, it's going to look the same. But let's say, you go from crude oil to MES. 1.00 in MES just means 4 ticks. So if you were to change the symbol to MCL, it would show 0.04 here instead of 1.00. But you don't need to change the default symbol. They'll work on all symbols. Jason is asking about placing an order on a futures and options contract on the same ticket. Yes, you can. So we will, a little off topic, but since I brought it up, we'll just go over it really quick here. So we can go to place an order, and we can either go to multiple orders or multiple competing. I think you would just want multiple orders. So, in one order, you could buy CL at the market, and then you could put in, an option symbol for CL here and buy both at the same time, or buy one and sell one at the same time, all that stuff. And for multiple orders, one order can be a market, one can be a limit, one can be a stop, one can be a limit, all that stuff. Andrew is asking, can we create bracket orders with two contracts, but two targets and stops? Yes, we can, and be happy to go over that for you here. So we'll create a new strategy. And what he's asking is, instead of, buying one contract with a 5-point stop and a 3-point limit, maybe you're buying two, and you have one contract that you want the stop to be 2 points away and the other four, and on the same side for the profit side, you have two different targets. So we will select multiple orders. And we will make both multiple orders bracket orders. And so let's say for the first contract, you want the take profit to be 2 points and the stop to be 2 points. And then for the second order, you just want 4 and 4. And we'll enable that on the chart here. And so the only thing you want to be aware of with the multiple targets is just that if your quantity is 1 and you have this strategy enabled, it's a quantity of 1 of that strategy. So you're going to be buying 2 contracts. If you set the quantity to 2, you're going to be buying 4 contracts. So if I place an order, we have our 2 contracts to be bought. We have our 2 stops and our 2 targets here. And Byron is asking a related question. What about multiple targets with a common stop loss? You can do that. All you would do is, when you create the strategy, you would just set both stop losses to be the same on both orders. So you could have both stop losses be 2 and have your 2 targets be different. And someone is asking if bracket orders can be in ticks and not points. Yes. So let's look at our original bracket order here. So you can just click on the number of ticks, but you can also put it in as a price format. So on the S&P, it trades in quarter increments. So if you wanted to take profit to be 3 ticks, you could either select 3 ticks or you could type in 0.75. John is asking if you can place a bracket order at market. You can. So if we change back here to our regular bracket order, you just buy at the market, it still works the same. Okay, there's a lot of questions in here. Mahesh is asking about indicators. So let's move on to that unless there's any other questions about the bracket orders. So to add indicators to the chart, first I'm going to get rid of the volume here. So here's our basically our main settings window for charts. For indicators, we just go to add, and there's a lot in here. So if you don't want to, scroll and be scrolling and looking for something, you can just type it in. So if we want to look for a MACD, select it. Once you select it, the indicator will pop up here, and this settings gear is where you can customize it. So we can change the period, we can change the data set. So if you're looking at an MES, but you want to be looking at a MACD for a different product, you can change that here. And then you have display options for all the different outputs of the indicator. So if you want to change the color of the histogram or how thick it is, you can do that all in here. And then output is where you can change the format of the actual values you're seeing. So if you don't want to see the exact calculation of an SMA to the 10th decimal, you could change the format from a number format to a price format. So it'll just round it to the nearest tick of whatever contract you're looking at. One moment, I'm just looking through some of these questions here. So Michael's asking how to adjust the bid or ask up or down when making an order. I'm assuming you mean modifying the price of the order. So before you enter an order, you can drag up or down the price, or after you place it, you can also click and drag to modify the price. Okay, so outside of order placement and indicators, you can change, there's some quick buttons here to change time period of the chart. And there's a few different ways to zoom. So you can drag up or down on either axes, or you can grab the whole chart and move it around to your liking. If you want to change to a different period other than what's displayed here, you can click the settings. And let's say we wanted a 2-minute chart. You could do that here. We also have tick charts, Renko charts, all the different candle types. So let's say you wanted to look at Renko bars. You would go back to indicators, select Renko, and then we would actually not display our original bars here. It might have had some bad settings in here. Let's try this with a different bar type. I might be doing something wrong here, but we do have Renko and Heikin-Ashi and some of the other candlestick types that a lot of people like to use. And someone's asking if you can link the quotes widget to the charts widget. No, I understand what you're asking for. We don't link the chart to the quotes widget, but if you did want to load any chart from here, you would just click on the symbol and click chart. Joseph is asking about drawing tools. So with the paintbrush icon here, you have a few drawing tools and you can just select one, draw them, and then to edit them, you can see we drew this line here. And here's where you can change the color, whether to extend it or not. Oh, he's asking how to remove it. So you would just click on the trash can icon to remove the line. Mahesh is asking about live market data. So on this platform, you don't need to go and enable it. On the Ironbeam platform, we provide live level 1 and level 2 by default. So you don't need to do anything when you log into the platform. The market data is already live. So Byron is asking if we can detach the dome from the workspace. You can't detach it, but what a lot of people do is on desktop, we don't have a limit to how many apps you open. So if you just wanted a dome, what you can do is you can pull up a depth and put it in the top left corner here, and you can resize the whole platform to just be the depth, and it'll be a free floating depth widget on your desktop. GJ is asking if we can show profit and loss instead of the price on a bracket order. That is actually coming. It's not available in this version of the platform, but I believe in the very next update you can display as ticks, points, or P&L. So that will be available soon. Our market data is in-house. Okay, any more questions about charting? John is asking generally if there's more slippage on the app versus the laptop platform. If you mean the mobile app, it there definitely can be, but that's not due to the platform. It's just typically, if you're on a desktop machine and you're hardwired in with Ethernet versus trading off your cell phone on cell service, there's likely going to be a difference in latency, just because your phone's ping to the exchange is going to take longer than a desktop on Ethernet. So someone's asking about range and tick candlestick charts. We do have tick bars. I'm not sure if we have range bars. So we do have tick bars. See those here. We have a range oh, we do have range bars. So yes, we have range bars and tick bars you can add to the chart. Okay, lots of questions. A lot of people are asking to move on to the dome. So I think we're going to do that at this point. So when you open the depth widget, there'll be nothing in there. It's going to ask you for a symbol. And I'll go through all the different things you can see when you first open it here, and then we can open it up for questions. So a lot of things going on in a depth widget. Up at the top left, we have our symbol. We have last traded price. We have our change, your high, low. Here is your position indicator. So if we're long one, it'll show us that and it'll stream our P&L. And so we have some quick buttons here. So if you want to buy one at the market, you'd click here. If you want to buy the bid, which would mean placing a buy limit at the current bid price, you can do that here. Here you can change your quantity quickly, or you can use these buttons or type in your quantity. And then you have sell market and sell ask. Sell ask is placing a limit order in the current ask price. So we have a few columns in a dome. The left is VAP, that's volume at price. So it's displaying the total volume traded at a certain price within this trading session. So at 67.71, 44,332 contracts are traded at this price. So some people look at this and there's a theory that the higher numbers will have more liquidity, things like that. You can see as you scroll down, here's a low of the day and we have no volume below that because the market hasn't traded down there. The next column is buy. So this will show any pending buy orders. Here's your bid column. So the current bid is 67.6650. Ask column is the same deal. So here's the current ask price. Your sell column will show any sell orders you have working. The size column is the total number of working orders at that price. So it's 67.69, or sorry, not total numbers, total quantity of contracts. So this is the total number of contracts at that price with working orders. And here's the number of orders that make up those contracts. I usually put orders first here because it makes a little bit more sense to me. At the top right, we have our settings widget, or not widget, window. Here you can change your quantity buttons if you want to customize those. And then here's where you can add additional columns. The last thing on this widget here is there's an MBO slider. So your typical level 2 data is going to show you the number of orders and size. Depending on the symbol, most of them are within 10 ticks on each side. So that's your typical level 2 data. On this platform, we give you MBO, which doesn't limit you to those 10 ticks. You can actually scroll many, many points down and see how many orders and resting contracts are at each price. I'm going to take a look at the Q&A here. So John's asking if you can integrate time and sales into the DOME columns. I don't believe at this time that you can. In our Ironbeam community forum, you can post feature requests, and that sounds like a good one to post in there. It does sound pretty interesting. And someone's asking if we have plans on adding a tick by tick position P&L column into the depth widget. I don't know if it's a plan, but that's another thing that I would recommend posting in our forum. I know some platforms do that. You can add custom formulas to the depth columns, but I don't think you'd have the capability of putting the P&L in there. But that would be a good thing to post in the forum for sure. And Danny is saying he doesn't see level 2 data in his depth widget. I would give us a call about that. There might be maybe your account is not enabled for level 2, so just give us a ring and we can enable that for you. And now that we've gone over the main display parts of the dome, I'll go over how to place orders on it. So on the dome, you can click on any price to place an order. A left click is always a limit order, and a right click is always a stop order. So if you're left clicking on the bid below the current market price, the platform knows that you're looking to place a buy limit order. If you left click above the current price, it's going to understand that you want a sell limit. If you right click above the market, it'll place a buy stop, and a right click below the market will be a sell stop. And it has the same strategy feature as charts. So if we go and select one of the strategies we created earlier and enable it on the dome, now when we place an order, we have our stop loss and our take profit automatically set. And as I modify the price of our entry on the bracket order, the legs will also move up with it until it's filled. So once you're in a trade, you'll see a line for your average entry price. And here we have our sell limit and our sell stop. And we can modify the price just simply by dragging our orders up and down. And let's say you're happy with where the current market price is and you don't want to wait for your stop to get filled. You can click exit and cancel, and that'll exit your, oh, we got filled at the same time there. It'll exit and cancel your, exit your trade at the market and cancel the remaining legs of your bracket order. Someone's asking if you can do GTC trailing stops. I believe you can. So the best way to enter a trailing stop, in my opinion, would be from the quotes widget. So if we select trailing stop, yeah, you can set it as a GTC. And so here is where you can set your trail amount. So it's the same way as bracket orders. You can put in the number of ticks, or you can type in a price amount. So if you want a 15-point trailing stop, you could enter it that way. So Leo is asking for an example of a trailing stop on the dome. The way I would do it is I would create a strategy for it. So I would select, there's a couple ways to do it here. So I would do, there's a number of approaches, I guess. You could do, I believe trailing stop would just be the trail order. We can try it out and see what happens here. So we had it set for 5 points. And let's see. So if I click at, let's do 67, 62. So it's going to place your trail 15 points away from where you click in. So I think a better way would be doing an entry with a trailing stop. So you would do a multiple orders strategy and then enable it in the dome. Someone is asking if you can adjust the number of contracts visible on the dome. I'm not sure if I understand the question, but if you could re-put in the question with a little more detail, I could answer it for you. Any other questions about the dome here before we move on? Okay, we will keep moving along here. So far we've covered account detail, we've looked at quotes, we've looked at depth, we've looked at charts. Fills is an easy one. So this is going to show your all your fills in the current trading session. So let's trade one other contract just so we can add a couple rows here. So it's going to show every symbol you've traded, your numbers of buys, sells, your current net position. So we're long MCL right now, so our net position is 1. It'll show our P&L total on the day for that contract and your average buy and average sell prices. And what you can do is you can expand this. So if you want to examine all the trades you've made on MES today, you can click this plus button, and here's where you can see all your trades. So whether you bought or sold, your fill price, and your time of your fill. And while we're on the subject of orders and fills, we can take a look at our order book here. So you have 3 filters here. You have show all, you have show working orders, which we don't have any right now, and we have complete. So here's all the orders we've placed in today's webinar. And you can expand the details. So let's say we're looking at a bracket order. We can look at each leg of the order. And then if you want to expand to see order submission times and stuff like that, you can click on the magnifying glass and see, to the millisecond, what time you entered it, when it was filled, when it might have been modified, all that good stuff. Are there any questions about fills or the order book? So we have the time and sales widget here. This is another really simple one. This is just going to stream you every trade as it's coming in. And in the settings here, you can change the minimal trade size. So if you don't want to see orders that are 1 lots and under, you could set the minimal trade size to 2. And that will only show, orders of 2 contracts or greater, or sorry, fills of 2 contracts or more. So Andrew, for time and sales, it's streaming. It's not historical. So once you open it, it'll start populating. You can't go back to prior days on the time and sales. So the spreads widget is very cool for spread traders. The only thing here is that since we're on a demo account, we're not actually connected to the exchange with a live account, so we're not able to create spreads. But on a live account, here's where you can enter your legs, whether they're options or futures, your quantities, and you can either find the spread if it's already existing, or if it's not already a spread that someone's trading, you can create it and get a market for it really quickly in the platform. Salo is asking, when analyzing fills and order flow, do you recommend focusing more on the dome or the detailed fills window to understand liquidity behavior? Personally, I'd probably have both up, right? Because the dome is only going to show you live market data where the time and sales you have the ability to look at things that have already happened, where the dome is just real time only. So I would be looking at both. Greg is asking if you can download the order book. You cannot download it. If you're looking for scraping that kind of data, I would recommend you um, integrate into Ironbeam API. There you can programmatically subscribe to depth of market, and you can, if you want to store that data somewhere, you'd easily be able to do that with the API. Okay, so we've covered a lot of the platform here. Alerts, um, not something I use a ton, but I know some people like it. So here you can put in any symbol. I know we're just doing a ton of ES today, but so here you can put in a symbol and you can a number of fields you can select. So if you want an alert every time the last size is greater than or equal to 500 and you save it, it'll alert you at the top right of your screen every time a big order gets filled on the ES. If you set it to repeat, it'll continue to tell you every time it happens, or you can just have it alert you once. The bump trigger is more helpful for price related alerts. So if you want the platform to alert you every time let's say the daily range is greater than 100 points and you set it to repeat and you have a bump trigger of that's too small, say 25 points, it'll alert you if the day's range hits 100, and then it'll wait to alert you until it breaks 125 and then 150 and so on. Okay, so there are tons of questions in the QA, so I think I'm gonna breeze through these last smaller widgets and then we'll go to the Q&A. So watch list is really a simplified version of the quotes widget. So you have less columns to look at and it's a little bit more compact. So if you're tight on screen space, this is something you can use. All it's going to show you is the symbol, your last price, your change, your percent change, and then you have a buy and sell button and a chart button. Statements will show your daily account statements. We're in a demo account, so those will be blank. And then I know we had some questions here about event contracts. So we have a dedicated event contract widget here. And what this does is every day it's loading in the current event contracts available, and you can switch between any supported market for those event contracts. So these are pretty fun to trade. They're very, very small contracts. And you're just betting, whether X market closes above or below a certain price. And lastly, we'll look at the main settings of the platform. So if we click on the hamburger menu up here at the top left, we can go to settings. One thing I recommend doing, if you have a nice computer and a good internet connection, you do have adjustable quote speed. And if you put it at the fastest, the quotes are updating, as they're coming from the exchange, where if you put it on the slowest, they're updating, once a second or something like that. So having your quote speed really high is a nice feature to have if you have a computer that can handle it. Outside of that, you can change your theme from dark to light theme. We also have a dark alternate theme that you can check out. You can change your font size, your actual font. These workspace settings, I like the default ones that are in here. So auto save workspace changes. Anytime you move a widget or customize a chart, all that stuff, it's automatically saved. If you log out and you log in on your phone, you'll have that same workspace with all your changes you made on desktop. So I usually recommend to leave that on. And that is pretty much it for the main platform settings. I think we've covered pretty much everything in the platform. I think next webinars we'll just do deeper dives on more specific topics. But outside of that, I think we'll just open it up to a general Q&A. If anyone has any remaining questions or anything about Ironbeam or the platform, feel free to throw them in the chat and we'll answer them for you. So Scott is asking, if you don't have a strategy on the dome, how do you add stops? So I'll show you that. Or you know what? Let's close this position here. So let's say we're trading some micro crude oil and we're long. If you want to place a sell stop, all you would do is right click at what price you want to place a stop. So if you want to get stopped out at 60, 70, you just right click and here's your sell stop for one. And as things might change in the market, you can change your price right here and you can double click it to cancel it. Someone is asking about volume profile. We don't currently have it on our platform, but we definitely will in the near future. Dimitri asked if there's plans to add last trade size at the traded level. That would be a very cool dome feature. That's another thing I highly recommend posting in the forum. The developers look at that page all the time, and there's been a lot of updates to the platform that originated from that forum. So I definitely recommend posting that in there. Someone asked about options relating to placing complex option orders or spreads via the dome. Yes, you can. So it's a little tricky because the spreads widget is not compatible with a demo account. But what you would do is you'd create the spread here and it'll give you the symbol and it'll also ask you, do you want to open this in a dome or a chart? And you would click yes for dome, and then you could trade that option spread from that dome. Someone is asking if there's an orders pulled slash added at price feature. There is not, but there is an order flow update coming to the platform, which will have that and a number of the other things like footprint, volume profile, some of the other earlier questions for sure. Abby asks, why are SMA fixed any way to adjust? So you can definitely adjust the period for the SMA. I'm not sure if that answers your question. I'm not sure what exactly you mean by fixed, but if you don't mind, if I didn't answer your question, you could repop it in there, and I can help you out with that. So someone's asking basically what the account statements look like, your end of day report. Unfortunately, demo accounts don't have account statements, but what it's going to show you every single fill, any deposits or withdrawals, any fees, your margin usage, basically anything you can think of is shown on your account statement that you would need to see. Abby is asking if there is a VWAP indicator. Yes, there is. And she's also asking, are moving average colors adjustable? I'll show you how to do that. So let's add a simple moving average. So right now it's green. If we wanted to change the color, we'll go to our indicators menu. We'll click on the settings gear for our SMA. We'll go to the display tab. And here's where we can change, make the line a little bit thicker, and we can change the color. So if we want it in orange, or you can customize the color quite a bit in here, but select any color you'd like, click choose, and save it. Craig is asking where the alerts are sent. So you can get it on, it'll pop up on your screen in the app or the desktop platform. I don't know if we do email. Let's see. No, there is no email for alerts. Someone's asking if there'll be a webinar for the mobile app. That's a good idea. I think we'd have to figure out the technicals of doing that, but that could be fun. The mobile app is it, the user interface is a little bit smaller just to fit onto a phone screen, but in terms of the features and menus, they're identical. There's no features on desktop that are missing on mobile. Saulo is asking, can we show a quick example of creating an option spread using the DOM? So you wouldn't use the DOM to create an option spread. You would go to the spreads widget, you would create it, and once it creates the spread, it'll give you a button right here. Once the spread's created, and it'll ask you if you want to put it up on a DOM, and you'd click yes, and it would load it up onto the DOM. So David is asking how to place a stop order on the mobile platform. When you click in an order on the DOM on mobile, there's a pop-up that pops up on the bottom half of your screen, and it'll either ask you, like let's say on MCL, if we click here at 60/70 on mobile app, it'll ask you, do you want to place a buy limit at 60/70 or a sell stop at 60/70? And you just simply click sell stop. So to draw lines on a chart, you use this paintbrush icon here, and you have your line options. So once you click, I clicked here on line, you just click and hold, and then release where you want it to end. By default, the line will automatically extend. And if you don't want to extend, you can just uncheck extend line. So Jose, I think, is basically asking the a more simple way of placing a bracket order instead of saving it. So if you just wanted a classic um, buy limit, sell limit bracket order, and you didn't want to do it on the chart or DOM, you just click on the symbol in quotes, go to place order, bracket, and you just type in, your profit and stop loss and hit submit. So you can build your own indicators on Ironbeam. I think we would cover that in a separate webinar, but you would go to this formulas builder here, and you have your list of, we give you the list of our current indicators, and then you can add your own formula. So you can create it, you can add the functionality, the name, you can add some documentation, um, formatting, appearance, all that stuff. And once you save it, it's available in the DOM, it's available in your charts, and you can even use custom formulas in the quotes widget as an indicator. Glenn is asking, is there a way to place orders with one click? So yes, you'd go to the main menu here at the top left. You'll go to your settings, and on the first tab here, you have enable one-click trading. So if you enable that, you'll have no order confirmations when placing an order. So Jose is asking how to place a bracket order with price levels instead of ticks. So that would really just be a classic order triggers OCO. So that would be this order here. So this is for the S&P. So let's say you wanted to buy one at the market. And then here's your second two orders. So if you want to sell limit at a higher price and a sell stop at a lower price, you would just do it this way and hit submit. So if you're looking for the Ironbeam forum, it's ironbeam.com/community. I'm not sure. I know there's a lot of chatter in there with the API. I don't know if people are posting their custom built indicators in there, but I would certainly go and check it out. So if someone's asking how to add an OCO stop loss and take profit to an existing position on the dome. It isn't really built for that, but it's much easier to add your stop and limit while you're initiating the position. Um, a lot of the times I get that question. What I recommend doing is when let's say you're generally only trading for a few ticks or a few points, and you always want a stop and limit in, but you're not necessarily, you don't want to be stuck to a certain strategy. What I typically recommend is make a bracket order, save it, and have your stop and limit be further away than what you would normally use, right? So let's say you did 5 points on each side. At least when you put in the position, you have those orders in there, and you can just drag them right away and put them wherever you'd like. Because there's plenty of traders out there that aren't using the same exact template for stop and limit every single trade. So that would be my recommended approach for that. Someone asked if you can do automatic pyramiding, automatically adding to your position that goes in your favor. So there's two approaches I would think of. One would be you have a saved strategy where you use stop orders. So, let's say you're buying one contract, right? You can place buy stops above the market. So let's say you buy X market at 100, and if it goes up 5 points, you want to add to a position. I would just have a strategy where you have a buy stop order, 5 points above. So you're long, the market goes up 5 points, your buy stop gets hit, and you add to the position instead of closing it. So Leslie, the bracket orders are always independent. Um, they're always independent of each other. So if you're doing two different or one bracket with multiple targets, right? Um, the, there's technically two bracket orders. There's a bracket order working for each contract that are linked to each other. But the nice thing is let's say you have two different stop prices and you decide you want both of those stops to be at the same price. Once you drag one stop on top of the other, you'll be able to modify the price of those two separate stops at the same time. So if you click and drag that that order box that technically has two orders in it, it'll modify both at the same time. So SB is asking, when I click the dome with one-click training turned off, the order entry window pops up. If I select order cancels other and set a sell limit above and stop below on the existing long position, this would work as the OCO. Yes, that is a good workaround. Yes, that's pretty smart. Okay, guys, this was great. If anyone has any last minute questions here, I'm happy to answer them. Um, if not, thank you all for attending today's webinar. We really appreciate it. Oh, wow, a bunch of questions coming in here. Hold on one second. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up. Additional questions, email. If you already have an account here, feel free to email your broker. If you don't, send us an email, sales@ironbeam.com. Everyone on that inbox is an expert at this platform. If you want to ask me any questions, my direct email is mike.murphy@ironbeam.com. I hope you all found this session helpful. If you have any further questions or need additional support, feel free to reach out to me or the team. Have a great day and happy trading.